Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today we are diving into a crucial concept in Java Spring development, Spring Dependency Injection. In this video we will explore what is dependency injection, why it matters, and how Spring makes our life easier by handling this dependency for us. So let's get started. First of all, what is dependency injection? Traditionally, developers manually create instances of the classes that their component depends on. Manually managing these dependencies can get a little bit messy. Dependency injection, on the other hand, is the way to invert this control. Instead of the dependent component creating its dependency, Springs take charge of assembling and managing our components. The dependencies are provided into the dependent component from external sources. This is a lot of technical talks, so let's put it in a simple example. Imagine you are building an awesome Lego castle. You know how sometimes it can be a little bit tricky to find the perfect Lego pieces. It's like a big puzzle and it can take a little while. But what if you had a magical friend who could help you and hand you the right Lego pieces? Building your dream castle would be a lot easier and so much fun. So guess what? Dependency injection is like your magical friend for your applications. It helps you to manage all the important dependency so you can create a cool application faster and without any hassle. Spring Dependency Injection uses annotation like @AutoWired and various configuration methods, either through XML or Java code. So let's jump to an example and see how Spring take care of dependency injection.
Now we are taking a look into the code to see dependency injection. We are going to see three common ways to make dependency injection. And by the end of this video, I will tell you which way is the most recommended and most best practiced. Mainly, the three ways to do dependency injections are field injection, constructor injection, and setter injection. And here we have simple Java Spring application. We have three controllers that do the same thing. They use a repository and then they return only a text. If we take a look into the repository had only one function, and take a string and return it. Nothing fancy, and we will try to do the dependency injection in these three controllers and return it, and see the three ways to do it. Okay, let's start with the field dependency injection. For that, we have the private repository here. If we try to run our application here, remember we are calling the repository here. So we go to here, localhost field injection, for example. Here we see that there is an exception. Here, if you go up, it's a null pointer exception. It says here that the repository instance is null. So this is normal because we need to do dependency injection. So the first way to do it is field injection. For that, it's pretty simple. We only have to do is to add AutoWired, the annotation AutoWired to the field. This is why we call it the field injection, and then restart our application, and which is started. And then if we go to Safari, field injection, and we see this value was provided via field injection, the same text that was here. So this was the first way. The second way we're gonna see is the constructor injection. For that, like the name says, we're gonna define a public constructor of the controller. For that, we're gonna pass my repository as parameter, and then we're gonna initiate it with this my repository, which is the field equals to my repository that was passed in the parameters. And that's it. It's the only thing. If we rerun our application and try to access it via the path Constructor Injection and Safari, and then replace here Field Injection with Constructor Injection, and we see this value was provided via Constructor Injection. Just a note, before in the previous version of Spring, you had to add auto-wired to the constructors, but it's no more needed here. The second thing that we can use also, that we cannot use in the two other ways, is to define our field as final, which can guarantee our immutability of the object, to be sure that it's not modified. Once it's initiated in the constructor, it can't be touched anymore. So this is the second way to do it. The third way, which is setter dependency injection, is the same thing. We have our field. What we need to do is to define a setter for our application. We call it my repository. You're gonna like set my repository, and then do this my repository, which is our field, equals to the parameter we passed. Okay, the only thing, it looks like the constructor injection, but it's not. So in this way, you have to add the auto-wire to the setters to be injected, and then Spring, when he initiates the controller, will set this, will create the instance. So if we rerun our application and go back to Safari, go back to Safari, and yes, it's setter injection, the path. Go back to Safari and replace this with setter injection, and we see this value was provided via setter injection. Okay, so to wrap things up, we've seen three ways to do dependency injection. The first one was field injection. We had our field and we add only auto-wired. The second way we saw is the constructor in dependency injection, which was like we define a constructor and we inject my repository as parameter and initiate it here. The third way we've seen was the setter dependency injection, which is we have to define a setter for our field and add the annotation and auto-wired. So these are the three common ways to do it. I'm gonna now tell you which way is the most recommended. The most recommended way is the constructor dependency injection, for mainly two reasons. The first reason is, as we've seen, that we can define the final keyword in our field, which can guarantee the immutability of the object. The other way, if we try to find, for example, for the setter, we say it's final, we got here an error. Tell you that you have to define only in the constructor. The same thing happens to the field, constructor, I'm sorry. If we try to define it as final, we get the same error. So see, this is the first thing why you should use constructor dependency injection. The second reason you should use constructor dependency injection is the setters and the field here. You've seen that this field is private, and even though Spring find a way to change this field. Actually, if you know anything about Java, this is not the best practice. It's something you're not supposed to change a field, a private field outside of the class. Spring does that somehow behind the scene using in a concept in Java called reflections, but it's another story. But this is not best practice. So for those two reasons, you should use constructor dependency injection for the keyword final, and because here Java is modifying a private field outside of the class. That will be all for today. Thank you for watching and see you in the next episode. Goodbye.